To skip to specific sections of the video that you want, check the links in the description and or the comment section. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy your stay. Hey guys, welcome back to Phoenix Films. Today I get to watch episode 3 of Attack on Titan. So this past week for me has been pretty busy. I had a wedding last weekend into, 4th of July, and I've had to do a bunch of writing, which has taken up pretty much all my time. So finally I have some time available today to get into episode 3. I'm pretty excited. So last episode was kind of brought to my attention that I don't have to write things down while I'm doing the reaction, because I might miss some things and my reaction will be lessened, since I can write during my editing. In terms of editing, episode 2's discussion, just like the after discussion, was originally 40 minutes of footage, and the editing brought it down to 18. So, you can imagine that's kind of a lot of cuts, so it does take me quite some time. I noticed that I say a lot, so I'll try to reduce that. I've learned that it's from when you speak in social situations, you don't want to be interrupted, so you need to fill the space. So it's a cue to everyone else that you're still talking. So last episode, Hannes was stuck outside the city, and it's 100 kilometers to Balrose. I feel like he's dead, but he got so much characterization in the first 2 episodes. It's make it hit harder, I guess. We got more characterization for Armin. He's kind of like a Tyrion, quick talker, weak. So I'm curious to see how that parallel will play out. So I'm curious how the relationships of our main trio develops. I imagine this year or so, 2 years, and plus training will make them grow super close. For Mikasa, I want to know what that happening again murder vision was. Maybe it's a memory. I guess also for Mikasa, the ending credits, this forest of bloody knives thing, I still can't really think of symbolism for that. What's that all about? So my What's in the Box reference from last episode, that was a reference to the movie 7 with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. What's in the box? It's the big moment, one of the big moments in that movie. Yeah, so what's in the basement? It's kind of the analog. At this point, it kind of feels like pure speculation. All we really know about Dr. Yeager is he's a doctor, and the basement is important, and he used a syringe. So maybe there's more of those, I don't know. That's the only thing I have to go off, really. Basement, key, syringe. Where in the past year, if we're at the training camp now, where in the past year has Dr. Yeager gone? Will we get to see him again? Okay, so I was thinking about this 250,000 people thing, and how do you convince 250,000 people to march to their deaths? Because if you know that humanity is extinct outside, then you are assuredly going to die, because 250,000 people is much fewer than all of humanity, right? So how do you convince these people to go to their deaths? And also, 250,000 people, that's a lot of people. Get a sense of this. I was reminded of this Civil War book I read once upon a time, describing the march of soldiers. And I looked into some of the stats on this, and I found that 120,000 men in a Civil War army, marching 4 wide. This line, 120,000, this line would be 14 miles, or around 23 kilometers long. And it would take 6 hours from the time the front passes you to when the rear passes you. So you imagine 250,000, more than double. Even if they're marching 20 wide, that's still going to be 6 miles, around 10 kilometers, and take 2.5 hours marching at the same pace as the Civil War depiction. And if you have the gate open for 2.5 hours with all these people, does the front of the line start getting eaten while the back of the line is still inside the walls? I don't know. Pre-gunpowder and indeed post-gunpowder too. Battles were kind of decided by who routes first. So I imagine these are untrained people. They're going to route fairly quickly. And only 100 people made it back, so that tells me that Titans are faster than humans. Yeah, and then the reason for the march was alleviating food shortage. That kind of struck me when I was thinking on it. It alleviated the food shortage for humans. Was this also alleviating the food shortage for the Titans? This could be why the Titans are doing what they are doing. I'm seeking clarity on this zombie Titan outbreak 100 years ago. I like cut off my thought in the last post discussion. So the options I think are, is this outbreak or the zombie Titans, are these like a biological thing, mechanical thing, or is this like supernatural? And were they designed? Or is this like an accident? Or did this come about by chance? For these big Titans, I was saying that they have smoke coming off of them. I guess I've had smoke in my head because episode 1 I thought it was a fire. I don't know, I've been talking about steampunk so much, so is this just steam? If this is like a zombie outbreak, will we get Giganshina zombie Titans? Like a Carla as a Titan? That would be wild. I feel like that would like break you mentally. Still don't really know why the Titans are doing this and how they work. Are they intelligent? The farming kind of tells me they might be intelligent, or there's something to them that's some part of them that's intelligent, or if it's a hive mind, the leader of the hive mind. There was all different sized Titans, so do they start small and then as they consume they grow larger? Maybe if they don't eat they start shrinking. So the special Titans, the plated one and the super tall one, both have this like sinewy appearance that's quite different than the normal Titans. Are they distinct because they're run differently, like they're machines? Or do they look so different because they're like a different species? I don't know. So these riverboats being powered, I was kind of thinking about that too. And since it's a river, they could just be hydro-powered. I mean, that would make sense, right? And I guess I've also been thinking, we haven't seen any trains or like coal or electricity, so I don't know, the steampunk kind of seems like there's not much steampunk. I guess a lot of that hinges on whether the special Titans are mechanical or not. But then, so the thing about natural gas is it's a byproduct of oil production. And traditionally, like, you burn it off because it's not usable. It wasn't until later when natural gas became kind of more useful than other fossil fuels. So how do they have natural gas but not oil? So then they don't have natural gas, and I mean, you can also just have pressurized air via heating up some water, making steam, and forcing it into a small container. This training camp is 3 years long. Will we get to? So I guess that will be the next episode or episodes. I'm wondering how much time they'll spend on this, because the first 2 episodes have been quite fast paced. So will the pace keep up, or are we gonna slow down a little bit? Maybe take a breather. are all these soldiers enlisting or are they conscripted? And why people use swords? So this government, is it like a, how much power does the king wield? Does he have a parliament or congress or something? Are there some kind of royal guards? So we'll get to see the dress uniforms. Yeah, still don't really know how the walls were made. And then we have this multiple years of peace, perhaps, from the fall of the wall to start of training camp. Where did these special titans go? And something I was thinking of as well, this 100 years of peace thing, it was kind of like at 100 years, it's like kind of even or convenient, I don't know. So is this like a cycle? Every 100 years the titans come to feed? Alright, so then for predictions, I guess low level predictions. So we were teased to training camp, so we're probably going to see more training camp. With the training camp, I mean, we only have a few characters right now, so I imagine we'll get more cast. I imagine we'll gain the ability, our characters will gain the ability to fight titans, gain power. The previous 2 episodes have kind of harped on this weakness. Humans are weak. This is kind of one of the themes here. And this training camp is like them gaining power. Also, there's kind of like this, a lot of the goals of various groups and characters is the protection of humanity. I mean, I guess that's everyone, right? Kind of wants humanity to continue living. So having a power up and wanting to protect humanity, that kind of drives me to think we'll see another battle. So we'll have maybe these characters fighting outside the walls to like regain territory or something. And then the opening had Eren jumping at the super tall titan. So is that the battle? There's that moment in the opening credits where these walls are getting smashed down and Eren's like flying. Seeing those together, we'll see more wall destruction and the battle between our now powered up characters. So with this cattle caged farming kind of theme that's been harped on as well, that makes me inclined to think humans are the Titan's food source and that will grow by eating, and they're out of food, that's why they're doing this. And then the final kind of theme I kind of gathered is there's been kind of like this divinity with the religious creature dude, dreams and visions. Maybe there's some kind of prophecy that we'll get to learn about. And our boy, one of our boys is, or girl, is the promised child. So I think that's all for my discussion. So yeah, I'm excited to get into this. Episode 3, what is the title? A dim light in the darkness of despair. Humanity rises again. Power up! Cool, let's get into it. For copyright issues, I'm trying to test different editing methods and what is acceptable on YouTube. So if this is the full-length version, find a link to the edited version down below. If this is the edited version, I'll put a link to the full-length. Anyway, enjoy. Just noticing these chains. This is the battle, maybe. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, the walls and him flying. Yeah, so is this the scene where the walls get destroyed? Dim light in the darkness of despair. Humanity rises again. His grandpa gave him his name. That was the last city. Cattle. Break him down. Homogenize them. She was in the scene in the opening. They've seen the Titans. Does he trust military police? They get to go to the interior. Like requirements. Okay. So many names. For the king and country. Ani. Don't mess up your form. Big thing. Oh my god. That's a lot worse than messing up your form. Talking to me? Sasha. Wow, she's so dense. And they're just amazed at her denseness. Yeah, she realizes, oh, I fucked up. The weak. We will be strong. Colossal. Oh, he's like popular. Oh man, it's like an urban legend. Like telephone. Like a weird skin. Arm. Oh yeah, I'm so tough. I get to be strong. Still wants to join it, huh? Eren's just playing tough. Still kind of weak, you know? First day. Diplomatic. Got a dick move. And those lips. Ooh. Got a crush on her? She looks different. Don't cut the hair. Oh man. There goes the diplomacy. Wiping off Eren's germs. Oh my god, it's nighttime? He's finally done? Glowing eyes? Never had bread before? Oh man. And cartoony. Didn't like. And Sasha's great. Potato girl. Like her. Comedic relief. This is like tense. Oh man, take advantage of her. Did we get their names? Did I miss them? Liaisons. Physically gifted again. Come on, Eren. Oh boy. Talking all tough. That he can't even. Sasha was like Yeah, I'm not gonna catch this. Sasha's like showing how easy it was. She's like swinging, and then. Oof. I knock him out again.
あいつ確か昨日巨人を皆殺しにしてやるとか言ってたやつだよな。
まあ、
Popular yesterday, but not today.
役立たずに
Oh yikes!
ねえからよ。
エレン、気にしても仕
Just
方
like
ないよ。
punched his shoulder.
明日できるようになればいいんだから。
こんなんじゃ奴らを根絶やしにすることなんか。
I'm weak.
もうそんなこと目指すべきじゃない。
なんだって。
兵士を目指すべきじゃないと言っている。
And she's so matter of fact.
命を投げ打つことだけが戦うことじゃない。
How did she not notice?
つまり
Lost in her thoughts.
もらってもいいってことですか。
Oh man. Bread. No bread for you. Sad. Everyone like picks on Sasha, huh?
お前ら人が頭下げて頼んでるのに。でもさ。
Oh man, diplomacy was out the window, remember?
いいって言ってなかったっけ?
Couldn't have asked her to cut her hair.
才能のないやつは去るしかないだっけ?
Oh man, throwing his words right in his face.
二人ともすごくうまいって聞いたぞ。ベルトルト、ライナ
And he's going around everywhere.
すまんが、ぶら下がるのにコツがいるとは思え。期待するような助言はできそうにないな。
そうか。
And switch.
かけるしかないね。
No one has like any good advice.
ただ、あんなめちゃくちゃな奪還作戦を強行した王政があることを考えると、じっとしてられなかったと。
Yeah, how do they compel them?
そっか。そうして急いで窓を開けたら。
Jesus.
その後は
How did they escape?
あまりよく覚えていない。
Doesn't remember. Very few people have faced them, huh? Kind of like a, almost like a myth or a
彼らがここ
legend.
にいる大半の理由は世間的な体裁を守るためだ。
The green cloaks.
12歳を迎えて生産者に回るやつは腰抜けだって世論に流されて訓練兵になった。
Well,
とは言っても僕も彼らと変わらない。
everyone
安
here
全な内地に
well?
勤務できる憲兵団狙いで兵士を選んだ。俺
Where
は
are they going?
帰れなくなった故郷に帰る。俺の中にあるのはこれだけだ。絶対に何としてもだ。
The black-haired guy wants to
君はなんで兵士に
go to the interior.
俺は
Blonde guy's feisty. This is like ethereal. The moonlight. That's where they're going. Oh, this is a really pretty scene. The blonde dude's Reiner, and then the black-haired dude is very taut.
覚悟はいいか。
はい。やる。俺はやる。
Come on.
素質がねえかもしれねえけど。
Oh, man, I'm like kind of nervous.
理屈なんか知らん。根拠もない。
I guess he has to
でも
succeed though.
俺にはそれしかねえ。これが俺の武器だ。
Whoa! Oh man. He's so close.
まだ俺は
He'll do it again like a million times until he succeeds. Now it's easy?
装備の欠陥だ。
Mm.
貴様が使用していたベルトの金具が破損していた。ここが破損するなど聞いたことはないが、新たに
Didn't you like notice that?
加える必要があるな。
Piece sticking out?
やったやったぞ。
Alright.
どうだ
Bait and switch.
俺はやれる。
これで私と離れずに済んだと思って安心して。
Sticky separating.
グリシャ。
Yeah, the three of them are super close. Grisha?
死になったぞ。
Dad is Grisha. This guy knows him? Oof. It's the Spider-Man gear. That was a sick shot for the ending. Yeah, that was awesome. Definitely less stressful than people dying. Yeah, so huge number of names went through that. So I mean, I kind of like writing down some of the names so I can refer to it like later on in the episode because I forget names like crazy. So I mean, there's ones I missed, so I can go back and get those, but like kind of helps me build like a profile, like Sasha, Potato Girl. Yeah, her shtick is like food. Like the glowing eyes. She's like animalistic. I think the only other glowing eyes we've seen was the yellow glowing eyes from the oh yeah, we got names for those two. Colossal and Armored. Oh, I'm not supposed to watch that. Ah! I didn't see anything. I just saw there's some cannons. Oh. Alright, I'll be back in a bit to talk. Okay, so I'm out in my living room. My girlfriend is over and she's taking up the other room right now. She's taking a nap, so trying to sneak this in, finishing this up, I guess. So some housekeeping out of the way to start. Yeah, so the lighting in here and also in the earlier parts of this video are kind of, the lighting is kind of off. I closed as much of the shades as I could in here to try and even out the lighting, but it's still not great. And then in the other room, I just didn't lower the blinds enough, so the sun was like shining on my face during some points, and then behind the clouds at others. Anyway, I found the pre-discussion editing to be like super difficult because I didn't have like a plan thought out, I guess, and my notes were kind of scattered, so the clips ended up very scattered, and trying to make it cohesive took a lot of editing time. Anyway, so I ended up grouping up things by kind of the topic and then just shoving the chunks together. From now on though, I kind of want to have like a more solid format. So I've been like kind of thinking about how to do that. I spent a ton of time this afternoon trying to settle that out, figure out what kind of format structure works best for me so I can streamline kind of the process. So for the post discussion, my format I think is going to be mostly chronological, and then my overall kind of maybe higher level topics at the end. Anyway, so let's talk about this episode. Starting with the opening credits. The title is like surrounded in chains. That just like made me think again of like cages. Humans are caged. And then it like scrolls up and there's like a huge amount of chains, and then it comes up through the ground to like that bloody battlefield, which kind of reminded me of Disney Hercules, where the Titans are kind of like chained under the ocean, and like the stars align and makes a hole by which you can access those chains that they were locked up by. I don't know, I kind of thought that was interesting. So also in the opening, this kind of post-battle bloody field, plus the wall breaking, and then the Eren versus Colossal. That was a name drop that we got this episode too. Colossal, Titan, I'm kind of thinking that's like all kind of one battle, or maybe two separate ones, I guess. Certainly Eren is trained, and when he's fighting the Colossal, and then the wall being destroyed, I think that's kind of like all together. Anyway, so then let's get on to the actual episode. Right, so the episode starts with Gunny. His name was given to us, I think last time, Keith Shadis. So he's breaking in the new recruits, kind of like homogenizing them. And he starts with Armin. We get his last name, which is Arlert. And his new goal, so his goals kind of have gone from, first was going to see outside, then second was just surviving, and now we have a third goal of his, which is to aid humanity, not just survive. And we find out his grandpa gave him his name. His grandpa must have been like very close with his family, was a family man, which is kind of sad. We see on their jackets this insignia that's different than the roses for the garrison and the, what was the Survey Corps? I don't quite remember. It's like blue and white, I think. Anyway, we have something different from that. So I guess that is the training, the FNG. So then we're introduced to, I call them the food miners. Food miner characters, very minor characters. So there's like officers in the background who are talking over their introductions. So that kind of tells me they're not as important. Anyway, we have Thomas Wagner from Trost, the blonde, skinny guy. He says cattle shed, or maybe Gunny says that. He belongs in the cattle shed. Then we have Mina Carolina from Kuranes with the black pigtails, and she says she's less than cattle. We have Samuel. This one was like, I don't even think he was on screen for more than a few seconds. Samuel Linky Jackson from Snate Village. He's got like a brown middle part, and he says he wants to sacrifice for humanity. So all three of them, well, at least the first two, are definitely in this like cattle food vein that that's kind of been a theme. Also with this guy's, the third one, saying sacrifice for humanity. I get the feeling they're being set up as the cannon fodder. I mean, if this is Game of Thrones, like, people are gonna have to die. So then Gunny skips over some other characters, some of which we meet later in the episode. I call them the PTSD miners, or PTSD crew. All of the ones who have seen some shit, they get skipped over. But Armin didn't get skipped over, so I don't know. Armin says like later on that, what does he say later on? Armin says later on that he didn't really see it when he's talking with Eren and the two of the PTSD crew, Reiner and Bertolt, who were introduced to more later. Anyway, moving on. The less minor characters. For these character introductions, there are not the officers talking over them this time, and they also get kind of maybe a little bit of elaboration, kind of more center focus here. We have Gene Kirstein from Trost. He's kind of got an undercut haircut, and he wants to get into the military police for interior, get into the interior to be safe. So we're introduced to the military police. From what I gather, they're kind of like deep in the walls, or they can move freely towards the interior. There seems to be kind of like some tryouts or like elitism. So maybe these are, and they might serve the king, as Marco, the next character, suggests. So are these like the royal guards that I've kind of been wondering about? But police is a very odd name to have for like a royal guard. So I don't know what to think about that. So yeah, the next character is Marco Bot from Janae City. Walrose South. Short brown hair, freckles. He's like compassionate and idealistic. Wants to serve the king, give his body in service. you know, for king and country. I just like kind of got this very British imperialist vibe, you know, for the queen. Then we have Connie Springer, the short guy with gray buzz cut from Ragako Village, also Walrose South. Yeah, so he was giving the wrong side salute, so he must be doing left hand, and it's right. So we learned that the salute is kind of from the heart. Then we go straight over to Potato Girl, Sasha Blouse from Dopper Village, also Walrose South. The brown ponytail, she's super dense, she's our comedic relief, and our everyone likes a good punching bag. She's like super food obsessed and doesn't really like sharing, even with Gunny. And then her being sentenced to 5 hours of running, that's like a marathon. 4 to 5 hours is kind of the marathon time, so it's suggested that this village is like a tiny hunting village in the mountains. Are they poor and that's why she's like hungry? And she's never seen bread before? Do they only just hunt and gather? Being kind of reclusive into the mountains as well. Maybe there's kind of like some antisocialness. That's why she's kind of like so dense. Something I did notice is that all of these characters are from the south. Walrose South. I don't think it was mentioned the fodder characters. Yeah, so I'm kind of curious, is this like training camp only for southerners? Or are southerners the only ones who care about fighting? Is there like a different kind of culture difference with the other regions? Alright, next we have our break time. First we're outside with Connie, Jean, Eren, and Armin. And we see that the weak are sent to go farming on the frontier. Well, suggested farming. Picking rocks and stones is like a thing you do to clear the fields for planting and harvest. The weak being associated with farming again. I mean, this theme is like pretty pervasive. And then we get the name drop of the Colossal Titan. Like it's capitalized, so I assume that's like the proper name then. And then we segue into Eren's story time. I noticed that there's lanterns again here, so still no electricity, so I don't think we'll see electricity unless maybe like the super rich have it or something. Giganshina has kind of this mythical quality to it, where people are super curious about it, like super exaggerated. The Titan who could step over the wall, kind of like a game of telephone. Another name drop is the Armored Titan, linebacker. Then they ask about the normal Titans, and Eren kind of sees Carla and gets sick for a moment. But then he like gets over it, and the first thing he does is like tear out of his bread. So it was like so wild to go from Carla being eaten to Eren eating the bread. Very interesting contrast there. Eren's also recommitting himself to joining the Survey Corps, gaining power via training. And he's not been dissuaded from that. He is plugging right on along. He kind of gets into ideological divide with him and Jean. Jean wants safety, Eren wants to kill the Titans, you know, adventure, save humanity, and Jean is kind of the diplomatic one of the two. Anyway, so Jean witnesses Mikasa walking by and he's like infatuated. I think he mentioned something about her being different. Can't remember the exact words. It kind of struck a chord with me. So all of these names are like very European. Jean, Armin, Eren, Reiner, Bertolt, Sasha, kind of European. And then Mikasa is not. So I've actually seen Mikasa before. Actually, about a week ago, there was an Reddit Ask Historians thread about something about wargamers predicting World War I death rates. In that, there was some answers about the Boer War. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, in South Africa, and the Russo-Japanese War. These happened kind of at the turn of the century. Showed kind of the devastation that machine guns and artillery have against infantry formation. So it was like especially the Russo-Japanese War was heavily documented. Almost every country in the world sent, every developed nation in the world sent military attaches to go, you know, gather information. I mean, they didn't use that information for developing new doctrine, but they were there and witnessed it. Some of the officers there from various countries did have the battles did leave an imprint on them, but perhaps they didn't have enough power. So I went digging more into the Russo-Japanese War because I don't really know much about it, and it's kind of like I don't know, a big deal for modern warfare, I guess, which is kind of fascinating to me. So reading about the battle, it's like very interesting. Like starts out of this naval port battle over Port Arthur, a Russian port. The Japanese fleet that's attacking there, the flagship battleship is called Mikasa. So anyway, so there's a naval battle there. Russian fleet gets destroyed in a few months, and then the Russians send their entire Baltic fleet all the way around the world. And as soon as it gets near Japan, it gets spotted and completely annihilated in this incredibly one-sided battle. I think the Russians lost like 8 battleships plus the rest of the fleet, and I think maybe a couple of destroyers were lost by the Japanese. It's pretty wild. The Russians were very incompetent in the Navy, it seems. Anyway, that was kind of a long tangent. But yeah, so Mikasa is definitely like a Japanese name. Yeah, her hair is like black and Eren's is like a dark brown. I can't remember if Carla had the black hair. I don't know, Carla's kind of a European name. And Jaeger, Grisha Jaeger, name drop for him too. Kind of European, so I think, I don't know, Mikasa's like adopted into their family. Being a doctor, you're kind of wealthy, so maybe, I mean, adoption nowadays costs quite a bit, so maybe they couldn't have another child but wanted one. Adopting Asian children is kind of a not uncommon thing in the US, so that could be kind of a parallel there. Anyway, we get on, she keeps walking out, is walking with Eren, kind of chastises him for being impulsive and rash, and he just kind of dismisses it, and then immediately fires back like, oh, your hair is too long, you need to cut it. That kind of struck me as kind of sibling bickering, but also she listens to him because she agrees to cut her hair. She's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And he did not agree to her, so kind of feels like a one-way street in some sense. Gene does not want that haircut, so he's like, how dare you, Eren? No more diplomacy with you. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Continuing on, we have the Sasha scene where she gets like these glowing red eyes, and there's the cute little blondie. I don't think we got her name. The little blonde girl. She looks quite small. She's like kind and caring and kind of selfless. I mean, she's like going out of the way to help Sasha. No one else did. And it's interesting. This is the only use of divinity in this entire episode. We haven't seen any, I believe, unless I missed it. Like, only direct mention, so the other people aren't religious. So the religion's kind of fanaticism, maybe. So Sasha in this scene is like very animalistic. And the glowing eyes, we've seen glowing eyes before with the armored Titan. So they're trying to really, I don't know, portray Sasha like as a Titan. She's like ravenous for food, kind of mindless for food in a way. So I didn't know whether to make of this, like, is this like kind of the cartoony elements? I mean, we haven't really seen any other cartoony kind of things. I guess she's the comedic relief character, so I think she has more license to be cartoony. Anyway, I mean, it could be deliberate too. Then we have this like very tense moment where this one of the PTSD characters, the freckled brown ponytail girl, asks if something about good deed, and good deed was like a trigger word Like the blonde girl was like triggered by that and repeated those exact same words back a moment later. That has to relate to something in her, past experience. I mean, it's kind of speculation as to what. But then we see the freckled girl's response. She's kind of she's bossy and confrontational and like narcissistic. I'm wondering if this is related to her traumatic experiences. Anyway, she's taking advantage of Sasha, our deer punching bag. So continuing on, we have everyone's first try at using the three-dimensional maneuver gear, and we see Mikasa again, physically gifted, and we see 3 other characters there as well. We see Jean, he's kind of doing okay, same with Connie doing okay, and then Sasha's just like swinging along, like not a care in the world. So in a way, she kind of seems like an analog to Mikasa, except, kind of opposite in character, in personality. And we also see that Mikasa's already cut her hair, because it was originally like down past her shoulders, and then during the tryouts, it's cropped short already. So she's, very pragmatic and I guess unsentimental about it. I'm kind of reminded of, Cersei being shaved is kind of shame. Also, Band of Brothers, like the French or Dutch women who have slept with the Germans, they get their heads shaved as well, and it's like a big shame thing. But she's just like, yeah, whatever, I'll cut my hair. And we see Eren is weak again. That kind of theme comes back. I did notice that the liaisons, officers, training staff, they have these long olive trench coats, also with the same training insignia. So then after that we see Armin and Mikasa trying to coach Eren, kind of reinforcing them sticking together. They've been through 2 years now together with really only each other. So, they've grown quite close. We get hit with the info, the mid-episode info thing. It says the 3-dimensional maneuver gear training is a difficult process meant to force the trainee to adapt from moving in a flat 2D plane to a 3D space. So that tells me that, I imagine that's quite difficult, and that's probably why it's 3 years of training. And it says, high endurance, strong legs, good spatial awareness, and nerves of steel are requisites. So we kind of learn that the load bearing is on the legs. Then we have the evening scene where Eren, with his head wrapped after he gets knocked out, he's kind of fuming, his head is like steaming, and then the scene stops, which kind of reminded me of the Colossal in episode 1. It was ostensibly steaming, and then it stopped. So this is like, I think, an allusion to in the opening when he's, having looks like a one-on-one with the Colossal. So that's kind of maybe some foreshadowing. But I'm not sure if this is kind of like a laid back episode, so it could be just the cartoony elements. And we also see Armin, he's like, I think he's got tears in his eyes when he's carrying Eren, so Armin's getting this characterization of like very compassionate. Then Mikasa grabs his shoulder and like just like sandwich, like, oh man, you can hear like bones crunch. Like they really want you to get the feeling that she's like a tough cookie. So she tries to have him give up. He's weak, willpower is not enough, and then she kind of gets lost in her thoughts, kind of fails to notice anything in her surroundings, then says, we'll all drop out together. So this sticking together thing is like extremely important to her, probably your top priority, I guess. Then we have Eren going around and begging. He gets his words thrown back in his face from Connie and Jean. Yeah, so, I mean, what goes around comes around. But, I mean, he doesn't get any good advice. Everyone's just kind of like, yeah, just feel it, bro. Then we get to meet, or we get names of Bertolt and Reiner. Bertolt is the tall, brown-haired one, and Reiner is the blonde one. They kind of seem like the duo to our trio. And they're from the mountains southeast of Walmaria. Again, we get this building of Armin as the compassionate character. He's kind of like reassuring, empathetic to Bertolt's pain. So we hear their story. There's Titans come at dawn. They hear footsteps. I mean, kind of what I mentioned, footsteps last episode. That's kind of wild. Right, he opens the window and he sees a Titan right outside. And then he doesn't remember after that. So how do you get away if, I don't know, maybe it's 80 kilometers, 100 kilometers to the wall, and you're in the town with the Titans? So I'm thinking the memories are like super traumatic. I mean, they've probably seen their entire families die. And that's why he kind of has a mental block, or it's maybe some cowardice or shame, because Bertolt's kind of characterized as a coward a little bit later. Maybe they had used the other townspeople as bait or decoys, and they're the only two who survived. And I mean, that's something you don't really want to share. Right, so then we have this moonlight walk. And they're like going past barbed wire fence. This is like trespassing. And I don't know, it's kind of confusing to me. Getting taken out into the woods. Like some weird connotations with that. And we learn that the trainings are 12 years old. The year is 847 and they're 12. So they were 10 years old in 845. Man. Seeing your mom die at age 10. Yikes. Yeah, so I'm curious if everyone's 12 years old. Do they like intentionally pick out people this young because they're faster learners and can learn this three-dimensional gear better, faster? Or can you sign up if you're past that age? It also kind of suggests that people are pressured into signing up. So this is like, oh, and this is enlistment. So it's not conscription. These are all like volunteers in the soldiery. So the first time I saw this scene, I thought Bertolt was talking about himself wanting to go to the interior, but he definitely says we. And he kind of describes it as like, either we get in the military police or we're like out of here. And then Reiner, like right after that, says that he wants to return to his hometown no matter what. So we have Bertolt who's like, we are going to the MPs or nothing. And Reiner who's like, we need to go to my hometown or nothing. I don't know, that seems kind of conflicting. Talk about that I think a little bit more later. Bertolt describes himself as having no will, and he's kind of cowardly. And he's just like telling us this, it's not being like shown to us through his actions, kind of like almost all the other characters. We learn about their personality through their actions. Here he's just telling us, so I mean, it's like kind of self-critical. But overall, this night scene with the lake, the moonlight coming out, it just kind of felt like, I don't know, I think I used the word ethereal. It's kind of like a dream-like, kind of almost trance-like. Like, did this actually even happen, or is this like all in their dreams? Alright, then the last part of the episode is Eren succeeding through sheer willpower. Even with the broken belt, they try and make you think he's gonna fail, but I mean, can't fail. Not this early. But it's kind of telling various people's reactions to Eren's success. Eren himself is thinking, I can do this, I can fight, I don't need Mikasa anymore. Like, you don't have to worry about me. And I think it was Reiner's voice. I'm not sure, I think it's Reiner's voice. I couldn't quite tell, and he says it all worked out. So I think this tells me that it, like, the lake scene like actually happened and it's not just a dream. Then we have Armin. He's empathetic. He kind of gets what Eren is feeling. He says Eren's thinking, see, I can do it. Armin kind of gets it. And then Mikasa is like, I don't know. It feels like she's kind of projecting. She's kind of out of touch. Because she says that he's relieved that they won't be separated. But Eren had just said, I don't need you anymore. So like, yeah, so she's kind of like a blockhead too, maybe. Like very kind of similar to Sasha in a way. Except quieter, and I guess that's kind of interesting that they end up as the last two in the cafeteria. But it also kind of reinforces her value of stick together. Then we have Gunny doing the sick name drop. Finally we get a first name for Eren's dad, Grisha. And that the Gunny knows Grisha. I'm inclined to think, I mean, Grisha saved everyone from an epidemic. He's probably famous in a way, so maybe this is one of the people he had saved. I was kind of wondering about that in episode 1, if people are gonna kind of owe the Jaegers and help Eren in some way. Gunny kind of makes it sound like Grisha would be proud if he were here. Yeah, where is Grisha though? I mean, it's been like a year plus since he's done anything. I don't know. I think this is supposed to be some subtle characterization for Grisha, and he wasn't upset with Eren when he wanted to join the Survey Corps, and then Gunny saying that he'd be proud, or kind of that's the feeling I get. Maybe Grisha kind of wants Eren to join the Survey Corps, but like can't say that in front of Carla. Anyway, so the episode wraps up with the sunset and the Spider-Man with the sick synth soundtrack in the background. That tells me I think it's a time skip again, because I imagine you don't learn how to be a Spider-Man in a week or two. So this is probably years later, and he's kind of got the strength now. He's got the expertise to take on the Titans. I'm excited to see where that goes next. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the kind of overall overarching things. In terms of my questions and predictions from the pre-episode discussion, I was wondering about the relationship between our main trio, and we see that they've become very close. They help coach Eren when he's down. Mikasa thinks they should if they give up, they should give up together. And in the end, they all get to be soldiers. I also asked, I was kind of curious about the training time and the conscription. We find out everyone starts at 12 years old. They're all enlisting voluntarily, with some pressure to be there, maybe social pressure. The training time is, I think, explained by how difficult to learn the three-dimensional maneuver gear. I was curious about the government type and the Royal Guard, and maybe we have an answer that the military police is the Royal Guard. And it's just a weird name. Normally Royal Guards have like fancy names. So I was thinking about like how to build the walls, and like there's only 1 million people, and I'm pretty sure like 1 million people died building just sections of the Great Wall of China. So yeah, I don't know. So on the topic of the why swords, the swords were on the like the bike handles. Kind of look like, you know, bike brake handles for the gear, and the swords were like on those, and they didn't have swords on their gear, so they can use gear without swords. Kind of reminds me of episode 1 when Honest draws his swords, right? So like they're detachable. Again, I'm curious about the coal steam power elements. Electricity, we see lanterns, so I don't think there are any. And then I guess no natural gas. I don't think it makes sense to have natural gas without coal. So before the episode, I was thinking the characters will gain power and they want to protect humanity, so we'll have another battle. But we find out that not everyone wants to protect humanity. Some people are just, you know, selfish, like Jean. Just want to be safe and sound. No, they will be safe and sound. I was also thinking a little bit about the years of peace where are the special titans. Imagine this is like a lot of land between Wal Maria and Wal Rose, plus the 4 cities. So perhaps they're searching for something. I could see it taking years to be thorough enough. So the themes of being weak, we kind of have our power up. Eren looks to be very competent in that ending clip. In terms of this cattle caged titans needing humans for food, that's kind of been ballooned. It's like hammered home so many times this episode. Caged livestock, cattle, yeah. In terms of dreams, visions, and the kind of divine elements, the only thing we have is the little blondie called a goddess, and then that lake scene. It's like, I don't know. It just feels very like so something at that lake, Reiner says or tells Eren that he can do it. And I get the feeling that it's a little bit about you can do it, as in tomorrow you'll be able to use the year and won't get kicked out. But also it kind of feels like an answer to Eren killing all the Titans. Reiner's like, you can do it. And in this dreamlike setting, is this like the prophecy like hinted at? I don't know. Maybe that's a stretch. So I guess the main change in goals, Armin now wants to aid humanity, like I said. Eren's still on the Join Survey Corps. Then we have a few characters wanting to join the military police. Jean, Bertolt, and Reiner, question mark, want to get into the military police for safety in the interior. Marco wants to serve the king. But we also have this goal of Reiner's goal of returning to his homeland no matter what. This kind of brings me to kind of the conflicts then. So we have kind of this competing pull for the characters of safety in the interior versus fighting for humanity. So we have kind of like the Jean and selfish safety camp, and then we have the Eren camp of people wanting to, fight for humanity. Which is interesting because Eren's kind of characterized as kind of a very selfish kind of person, and his goal is a very selfless one in the end. So there's like a little bit of irony between the people who are in his camp being like the selfless people. We have, Armin, and it seems like Marco isn't heading for the MPs for like selfish reasons. And then we have the selfish characters. We have Bertolt, and I kind of think of the freckled PTSD girl, probably also in this camp, kind of like narcissistic, selfish, wants to save herself. Then we have this other conflict, kind of a big one, it seems, is this story conflict between Bertolt and Reiner, where Bertolt says he's saying they want safety in the interior through the military police, and he's saying it like it's either we get into the military police or we're, out of here, versus Reiner is we are getting to my homeland no matter what. And his homeland is outside Wal Rose. That's like the opposite direction from the military police. But it didn't really Bertolt didn't say anything, didn't push back. I guess that's his cowardly character trait. I'm not sure if I talked about Reiner's kind of characterization. He's kind of this supportive guy, but also very driven, because he's very determined to get back no matter what. So that's kind of his personality. Alright, so then on to the themes. We have, again, from the opening, we have the chains reinforcing humans are caged cattle theme. We have the dreams and memories kind of divinity theme, and we have both the lake scene and little blonde girl, I guess, are the only things that would fall into that theme. And I guess the last theme is, it's kind of, I mean, go hand in hand with the selfish versus selfless in the characters. And we saw kind of this, I don't know, kind of that conflict coming through again and again in this episode. So I take that as like a new theme as well. I think that's everything. Let me know if I missed anything. Yeah, overall that episode was a lot more relaxed, had some comedy to it, and a ton of character introductions for sure. I'm wondering who will stick around from the main cast introduced so far. I mean, there's a lot of them. So yeah, I guess until next episode. If you've stayed to the end here with me, you kind of have like more say over kind of this video format. I mean, you've made it here. So I'm curious if people want, you know, tighter editing, which takes more time, or looser editing, and I can get out videos maybe a little bit faster. So if you have kind of a particular feeling towards that, let me know. Anyway, I think that's everything. Yeah, if you liked the video, thumbs up. If you want to continue this series with me, subscribe. Sell out. Anyway, yeah, I think that's everything. So I'll see you next time.